So, finding a new pair of football boots can be a little bit tricky because not only do you need to find a pair that, you actually like and that fit you well, but it also has to fit your budget. And that last part is just really important, unless you or your parents have a lot of money. But that's kind of where most people start, with the budget, with the restrictions, and then they kind of try to find the best option within that budget. Now the good news is that I've done all the hard work for you. So in today's video, I'll give you what I think are the best options for every boot budget out there, big or small. You're welcome. And the first bucket bracket we can look at is anything below and up to €100, where you get like a jungle of football boots, where you have anything from like the lowest tiers of takedowns to some really obscure boots you've never seen before, and the quality and value for money ranges from everything between great to terrible and, well, anything in between. And no, these football boots won't have the best, most innovative materials or the most sleek, streamlined shapes. They are made to appeal to and fit a wide variety of people, meaning that the brands are making them like soft and padded and pretty wide and cozy fitting, and that's just the name of the game. But with that said, you can actually get some pretty decent options here. One of them is the Nike Mercurial Vapor 16 Academy, which gives you actually a relatively soft mesh upper, at least with a few sessions of break-in. You have a relatively sleek shape for the price point, and you also get, apart from two circular studs here in the heel for a slightly smoother ride, where you still get some of that DNA from that amazing Mercurial stud pattern, and all of that for €90, which, if you just want the Mercurial and the looks, is actually not bad. There's also the wild card, that is the Lotto Stadio 300, and you might be thinking, what? The thing is that what you get here is a pretty, it's a synthetic leather upper, I'll be honest. You would want a leather upper, cool, but if you break this in, and it does need a bit of breaking time, but it actually becomes nice and soft and just really padded and very, very cozy, and for €80, you can do worse if you just want like a nice slipper type boot. What you can also do worse with is the Mizuno Alpha Select, the Alpha II Select to be fair, which fits a lot better than I would expect at this price point. It's relatively sleek, the heel fit is amazing for a boot at this price. You get a really soft mesh-based upper and the same stud pattern as you get on the expensive versions, and it's just nice and light. And for €100, it's actually pretty solid. But in my book, the best value for money in this budget range is by far the adidas Copa Gloro II. Now this is the SG version, I'm talking mainly about the FG version of course, but here you get this really soft, lovely, supple calf leather forefoot. The fit is on the wider, more cozy side, but it's really good and very comfortable. And the touch on the ball, thanks to that low pointy toe box and like the paddedness of the upper, is just so soft and elegant. And the things you get in this boot for what you pay is absolutely ridiculous. And for me, this is the big no-brainer when we're talking the €100 or below budget bracket. It's a vibe for the money. But if you can find 50 more euros somewhere, you are also looking at some very, very strong options. One of them being the PUMA King Pro, which I actually think I like more than the PUMA King Ultimate, and that is because of the upper here. It's also called K Better, and it just feels more like actual leather than it does on the King Ultimate. It doesn't feel like leather, but it just has more of that, the softness, the padding is there, and it's a really lovely upper, and for €120, it's just a nice, comfortable, cozy fit. The heel's not as good and all that, but for the price, it's actually really solid. However, the King Pro has a problem, and that is called the New Balance 442 V2 Pro, which is also made with a synthetic leather upper instead of an actual leather one, which will annoy a lot of people. However, I think when you actually feel this and feel how ridiculously and utterly stupidly soft this upper is, a lot of that criticism is going silent, because it is, for €150, this is wild. The way it fits, how sharp it is on the ball, it's super light, and it's just nice. The only thing is that the outsole is kind of meh, but But for that price, that's really good. What's also good is the F50 Pro, which feels a lot like the upper that you get on the F50, yeah, it's called the F50 Elite. But it's just slightly wider, has a heavier, more chunky outsole and heel counter, but really strong for the price as well. And obviously, there's a boot that's missing out by the fact that it's 160 euros, but it's really good still. The F50 Pro Messi, which gives you the same Hypertouch upper as on the Elite, which is phenomenal, but again, slightly wider, more chunky. But it's too expensive, so what can you do? Now, if I only had 150 euros to buy a pair of football boots for, I would buy this without blinking. Is that good? Or I would ask my dad to chip in 10 more euros and consider these. But then, if you chuck in another 50 euros to take the budget to 200, my friends, there is a whole new world opening up to you of quality and performance and, frankly, just awesomeness. Because apart from getting the F50 Pro Messi, you can also get the Vapor 16 Pro at 160 euros, where you get a super nice Flyknit upper. It has a slightly wider fit than the Elites, but it's still very streamlined, really accommodating, and it just feels nice. It's nice and lightweight. You get the same stock configuration as on the Elite, but it doesn't have the 3/4 length air zoom bag, which some might think sucks. But I really like that it just feels more traditionally Mercurial and a little bit more raw. And it still has a pod in the heel. So for 160 euros, this is really good. And then, of course, there is the Mizuno Monarcida Neo 3 Pro, which is the slightly wider cousin to the Morelia Neo, and it comes with an amazing fit, especially in the heel, and this super soft synthetic leather forefoot. It's 160 euros, and is one of those boot nerd insider secrets. Amazing value for money. You can also upgrade on the 442 with the 442 Elite, which is slightly lighter. It has a slightly more, streamlined sock-like sensation, and the upper is even softer. And at 180 euros, this is a really good option. But there is also this, which is the adidas Copa Icon 2. It's also 180 euros, and it is just nuts. And you might be thinking, yeah, calm down, Jay, but no, it is nuts for this price. This forefoot calf leather upper, but you cannot tell. It is so soft. And it's such a nice upper, and when you break it in, it's legit like a slipper. It's super nice, has this really streamlined, it's still accommodating shape. The heel is fantastic and free. You can use it on both FG and AG pitches, and it is like, yeah, for 180 euros, it is everything. Unless, of course, you want one of the 2-3 best speed boots on the market, depending on what you're looking for. The Sokito Scudetta, 200 euros, very streamlined, super lightweight, ridiculous responsive outsole here, and then the softest, sleekest, most comfortable BioTouch upper here. It has 2014 F50 Adizero vibes in the best possible sense, and for 200 euros, yeah, wow. And I mean, depending on what you want, either the Sokito Scudetta or the Copa Icon 2, I would take these and just, buy two, whatever. These are two of the very best value for money options on the market, period. Except for maybe the Mizuno Elite boots, which sit in the 250 euro bucket bracket. They are 210 euros. They used to be 200, which was even better, but they are still very, very good value for money, and really, really similar in the way they feel and the way they're constructed to the very expensive made in Japan models. So phenomenal. There's also the Copa Pure 3 Elite, which is 240 euros, comes with this really, really, really soft calf leather fusion skin forefoot, has a very nice, light, comfortable feel, and one of the best fitting Adidas heels for me in the game. There's also the PUMA Ultra Ultimate, which is 230 euros and just comes with this very traditional speed boot feel. Thin upper that breaks in nicely, really aggressive outsole, and is nice and light. So what's not to like there? You also have the two Skechers options, the Razors and the SKX, which are both made with really soft uppers. They are very comfortable, especially because they have this slightly wider, more anatomical shape in the toe box. So really good for wider feet too. And the same thing can actually be said, Skechers 225 euros by the way. Same thing can be said for the New Balance boots that come in at 230 euros and are both made with these very thin, very soft, hypo-knit uppers and just fit really wide feet and slimmer feet great as well. Lightweight, just a lot to like here. And if I had 250 euros, I wouldn't really know what to do, honestly. I'll probably go for either of the Mizuno boots and then, you know, but yeah, so you decide because I can't. But yeah. But if money is not an object, or you are just as religious about football boots as I am, and you just want the best, well, if you have above 250 euros, you can have the best. And one of these would be the Nike Mercurial Superfly 10 Elite, which is 280 euros and just a phenomenal pair of football boots. It's a speed boot, obviously, but it feels very comfortable with this super soft, very thin grip knit upper. It has a really responsive outsole, great grip in the ground. Obviously, you have the air zoom back for this really squishy, unique connection with the boot, and you know, yeah, it is a very good football boot. So is the Adidas Predator Elite FT and the non-tongue regular Predator Elite. This is 280 euros, but it gives you this really soft Hypertouch 2.0 upper, this completely unique connection on the ball thanks to the strike skin fins, and obviously the tongue is just a vibe and this very unique Predator-like touch. Great pair of football boots, light too, 280 euros. You can also go for the Adidas F50 Messi Elite, which was very similar to the regular F50 Elite, but just has a softer, slightly more padded upper, and for me is the better option at 270 euros. Wonderful pair of football boots. However, if you want like the creme de la creme, the Rolls Royce of football boots, you can take a look at the Mizuno made in Japan options. The Alpha II Japan here, which has a really soft upper, a fantastic, probably the best lockdown and lock-in on the market, really responsive outsole with like this carvo piece, carbon fiber-like insert that's just very aggressive and responsive, and you know, probably the best speed boot I have tried in the last 5 to 10 years. Insane. There's also the Morelia Neo 4 Beige Japan, which is a little bit more expensive than the 320 euros. This is 350 euros, but then it kind of feels like a speed boot that's also a slipper. So yeah, Rolls Royce, as I said. So if you want the best, this is the best. But if I could only choose one boot from each budget, starting from the bottom, I would go with the Adidas Copa Gloro II. Then as we move up a budget bracket, I would go for the New Balance 442 V2 Pro. And then when we get a little bit higher, I would go for either the Copa Icon 2 or the Sokito Scudetta. Then when we take another step up the ladder, I would probably choose the Mizuno Neo 4 Elite. And then finally, in the highest range, I would take the Mizuno Alpha II Japan. But honestly, there have been so many good options that are mentioned today, so no matter your budget and no matter kind of what you choose, it's hard to really make a terrible decision. You know, just stick to the list and you're good. But just tell me which budget and which model you would be going for in the comment section right down below. And remember that if you want to buy either of these on the list or many other boots that are also pretty solid, you can find them in the link to Unisport right over there. Of course, also don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And with those words, I'll be signing off. Cheerio!